system.
Okay.
Now, these have been out for about 2 months now, and I've had tens of thousands of people read them and report to me personal changes.
Oh, wow.
Intense, people bursting into tears. I've had people read them live on other shows, and there have been intense energy returns from them, as well as a great weight lifted off their shoulders.
Okay.
The one I'm going to read first is the Revocation of Banking Systems. I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream, all time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call to the four elements, air, earth, water, and fire. I call forth the spiritual court of equity with all ancestors in union with the migration patterns of all soul families incarnating on Earth Mother. I call the primary ancestor spirits of Earth Mother to come into the spiritual court of equity and hold space for the reading and removal of all contracts dealing with the energetic exchange of value system. I call forth the Earth Global Dreamtime. I call to the unified Dreamtime societies of all Earth to come to the spiritual court of equity to provide their complete wisdom to the sacred moment in which I reclaim my sovereign spirit authority for all exchange for energy for value systems. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the primary banking families. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all banking family crests. I revoke, remove, and dissolve all banking family trusts that use my name as a number for energy harvesting. I revoke all assumed rights used by the DNA-based kingships, lordships, or manor role contracts that function within all banking families. I hereby state I do not consent to the rule by the few. I do not consent to the rule by the banking families. I do not consent with the assumed authority of the banking families funding the free court system. I revoke all rights, privileges, and rules created by the family crest-based DNA lineage banking families to dominate and control the free court system. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts that define the bank system as being intertwined with my free will. I revoke all fine print within all of my soul contracts, past, present, and future, that deal with any banking system as a 3D matrix debt collection or energy harvesting system. I demand the instant repayment of all energy and 3D matrix representations of value. I do not consent to the use of corrupt courts as a means of judgment. I revoke all rights of 3D-based courts' assumptions of power with any 3D exchange for value systems created for the follies of the banking system. I do not consent to the use of my soul contracts as a means of energy harvesting from the primary banking systems created by the primary soul contract holding banking families. I revoke all rights to use my name in any form of banking family coat of arms. I demand the instant and permanent erasure of all signatures used to represent me in the banking exchange for value system. I do not consent to the use of my life force for any exchange for value system that is not in complete transparent with all transactional, spiritual, or 3D matrix. I hereby state that all bank-based buildings using sacred geometry have no power over my sovereign free will. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all banking systems that use sacred geometry as a means of energy harvesting or a tool for domination and control. I revoke all rights, privileges, and assumptions with all buildings that use sacred geometry as fine print soul contract enforcement systems. I do not consent to any sacred geometry buildings to house, hold, or transfer my life force to any banking system on all of Earth timelines and coexisting dimensions. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with all sacred geometry systems that use my life force without direct consent from me and all of my soul family ancestors in complete agreement. I revoke all rights, assumptions, rules that create a new sacred geometry banking system. I hereby declare that all banking families and systems are now banished from operating in secret, covert, overt ways to harvest my energy in any way, shape, or form. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all energy exchange for value systems. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of our free will at all times.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
That is a mouthful.
Wow.
What is the energy required to make those statements, Andrew? Is it should they put some passion or energy or emotion or feeling behind it, or is it enough to simply state them?
Anything that you can summon during it, honestly, you have to get to an understanding that all of those descriptions there are how deep it goes.
Yep.
And the reading is about how deep it goes, because that's the reclaiming of your free will. The energy behind it, even anger, even a bit of hatred. And I know that from a light worker community, when you use the word hatred,
right.
instantly the hair goes up. But it has to have that spark of, this is mine.
That's right.
You took it from me.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting angry. I mean,
yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, and I don't care.
Right.
Because I know it works.
Yep.
I've seen it work. I've seen people get helped by my anger and declaring that negative entities and forces leave a certain person alone at a certain moment. It was my anger and the passion that went behind it that made it effective immediately. I've done this hundreds of times.
Me too. It created a standing wave of energy that the entity could not be in anymore.
That's right.
I made a demand, and it happened, and my anger works fine. Once it was done, it was done. It takes 2 minutes, no more than
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, the voltage and amperage behind this, I turned it up pretty high, so there are people that are having chills up their spine.
That's what I was having. Are you kidding?
Okay.
Wow.
I'm experiencing you too, and I know that this is being recorded, but at the same time, I'm already experiencing the entire audience that's listening to this live and in the archive.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to read the Revocation of Government.
Please.
Okay? I call to all spiritual contracts that exist within my past, present, and future beings, selves, and existence in this dimension and time stream. All time streams above and below the earth-centric sine wave of coexistence. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestor spirits to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts that deal with all government personalities, elected and unelected. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all family-based, crest-based government systems. I revoke all rights, duties, and responsibilities to all government entities that use my vote as a means of energy harvesting. I revoke all spiritual contracts with every senator, congressman, ambassador, Supreme Court member, presidents, vice presidents, and all cabinet members. I revoke all spiritual contracts with every branch of government for all of my past, present, and future lives. I do not consent to the rule of the privileged few. I revoke all rights, responsibilities, assumptions, presumptions, and signatures that retain me within the entirety of any or all governmental organizations, family crests, sacred geometry buildings, monuments, memorials, or military bases. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with a corporate-run government. I do not consent to any form of corporate government that harvests energy from its people. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the Federal Reserve families. I revoke all rights, assumptions, and responsibilities with every member of the Federal Reserve in exchange for value systems run by any government or corporate official. I revoke all spiritual contracts hidden within our government exchange for value system. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all government offices that use sacred geometry crests to retain power or insert fine print into my soul contracts. I revoke all rights, privileges, powers, assumed and unassumed, consented and unconsented, with every federal law enforcement branch that uses Federal Reserve energy to support the system of domination and control. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create consent from the government committees that determine quality of life. I revoke all rights, duties, responsibilities for all government systems that write laws that affect my spiritual contracts without my direct consent from my total DNA lineage ancestors, past, present, and future. I revoke all spiritual contracts that enable the government to use time travel as a means of domination and control. I revoke all rights, duties of all time traveler personalities, operations, systems, past, present, and future. I demand the immediate return of all government time travel personalities to their right and perfect timeline. I revoke all rights with all technologies that alter dimensions, to manipulate time streams, or do harm to any sentient life forms coexisting on Earth in all timelines and all dimensions. I do not consent to timeline wars. I do not consent to mass propaganda. I do not consent with war-based industrial complexes. I do not consent with the use of military to dominate and control. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts secretly interwoven to each and every law, past, present, and future. I do not consent to the passing of laws that affect soul family migration, soul family immigration, or systems that prevent me from uniting my complete and total soul family. I demand the instant return of all of my soul family that has been denied the right to coexist with me for all of my past, present, and future lives. I revoke all rights, rules, and laws that define soul family on a 3D matrix level. I return all definitions of soul family to Earth Mother. I revoke all rights to label soul families with sacred geometry linguistics that cross dimensions or realities. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all forms of sacred geometry linguistics, past, present, and future. I do not consent to the use of sacred geometry linguistics as a means of energy harvesting. I do not consent to the use of sacred geometry cities, infrastructure, linguistics, or artwork for the purpose of domination and control. I revoke all spiritual contracts that enable the government to dominate and control all people on any timeline or dimension in Earth Mother's realm. I revoke all assumptions or presumptions of power and caste systems. I revoke all spiritual contracts that define sentient life as cattle or commerce. I do not consent to my life force being used for any purpose that does not heal Earth Mother and promote unity consciousness among all sentient kind living and coexisting within Earth Mother. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all forms of global government, interpersonal relations, or galactic relations for all sentient kind existing and coexisting on Earth Mother. I call forth all ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of our free will at all times.
Amen to that. Wow.
That's right.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. I mean, imagine if we all did that, huh?
Exactly. Take your power away from the systems. I encourage people to use this as a framework or to make your own. I wrote these in my own personal truth and space and knowledge of the